Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing the mid-year freak-out tag. I was tagged by the wonderful Nyok from Happy Comes First, so thank you very much to her for that. And this tag was created by Read Like Wildfire, which is the wonderful Chami, and Ellie from Ellie Jane. So let's get into the questions. These are all around the middle of the year, so I'm a little bit past that, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think this is really interesting to see sort of people's mid-year wrap-ups. So the first question is, what has been the best book you've read so far in 2015? I had quite a few for this, but I've managed to wangle the other questions to include various ones of that. So I have to say, so far in 2015, my favourite book has been Uprooted by Naomi Novak. I loved this book. It was really a great fantasy, really well thought out, great characters, and I definitely recommend it to anybody that hasn't tried it yet. Question 2 is the best sequel that you've read this year, so I'm going to talk about the Paradox trilogy by Rachel Bach. I loved Fortune's Pawn, I loved Honour's Knight, I loved Heaven's Queen. I just loved this, so if I've got to pick a sequel, that's my sequel. I love this trilogy, it was really good. I loved Rachel Bach's writing, so it's a great space opera with a kick-ass female lead character. She names her guns, I love that, and there's some really interesting alien species as well. Question 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to. Believe it or not, given that To Kill a Mockingbird is probably my favourite book of all time, I haven't yet read Go Set a Watchman. I own it. It's just one of those books where you just don't want to read it in case it's not as good as you hope it's going to be, and you kind of want to savour it, and you know you're never going to get another one by her, so you just don't want to read it yet. But I will read it at some point, I just haven't got to it yet. Question 4 is your most anticipated read for the end of 2015. I haven't really got one, if I'm honest. I'm really liking the Lunar Chronicles, but I haven't read Cress yet, but I suppose when Winter comes out I will want to read that because that will be the final in the series, so maybe I say Winter. Biggest disappointment of the year, that for me has to be The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. It was a disappointment in terms of I really wanted to enjoy it. I didn't finish it, I DNF'd this book, so I can't say as to its literary merits, and I know a lot of people love it, but disappointing for me because I really wanted to enjoy it and I didn't, so I was disappointed that wasn't one that I enjoyed more. Biggest surprise was definitely discovering John Scalzi's work, specifically Lock-In, which I absolutely loved. It's a great story and yeah, really opened my eyes to some more science fiction writing. 7 is favourite new author, Rachel Bach. I loved the Paradox trilogy, as I've said, and I'm now working on getting together her fantasy series, which is the Ellie Mum Press series, I believe, and she writes it under the name Rachel Aaron, so I can't wait to get started with those. Number 8 is Fictional Crush. I don't do that. Number 9 is your newest favourite character. My newest favourite character is definitely Cassandra from The Great Zoo of China by Matt Riley. She's kick-ass, she's feisty, she's really intelligent, and I definitely want to be in her group if we were attacked by a load of rogue dragons. Number 10 is the book that made you cry. I've got 2 for this. One is The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. That really did pull at my heartstrings. And the other, I bawled a little bit like a baby at the end of Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill. I can't say why because it would spoil the book, but yeah, it just really made me feel quite sad. Number 11 is a book that made you happy. I just recently read To All the Boys I Loved Before and P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, and these are just lovely, happy books that make you feel like you've had a cuddle. Number 12 is your favourite book adaptation this year, and for me that has to be Persepolis. I read the graphic novel and I watched the animation that they've made of it, and I think they're both brilliant. Number 13 is your favourite video you've made this year. I'm not particularly whizzy with my videos because of timing and me not being very technically minded, but in terms of what I've enjoyed the most, I've really enjoyed doing a few vloggy videos where I've vlogged some readathons, so I'm looking forward to trying a few more of those. Number 14 is the most beautiful book that you have bought this year, and I think definitely for me it has to be this one, The Versions of Us by Laura Barnett. I haven't read it yet, but I love that it's a hardback without a dust jacket, and it's got lovely end papers. And yeah, I really like these hardbacks that don't have dust jackets on. I would buy more hardbacks if more were like this. And then the final question is a book that you want to have read by the end of the year. I'm going to say this book, but I don't think it's going to happen, but it may very well happen next year. I'm definitely going to make time for it. It's just very scary. And that is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Yeah, it's way over 1,000 pages, and I know everyone says how great it is, and I just need to build up the courage to read this and possibly find someone to read it with me. Perhaps next year I will try and read this over a number of months or weeks, where I read just a chunk each and try reading it alongside other books. Maybe that will work better with me for big books. I genuinely don't like to read more than one book at a time. I just like to get into one story and really immerse myself in it, and I find if I start too many books I just can't keep track of the stories, and the enjoyment just diminishes for me. So but maybe this is what I'm going to need to do with this one, just to get me over the initial scaredy pants part of the size. So that's the one that I need to read by the end of the year. So that's my mid-year freak out book tag. I look forward to seeing everybody else's. I'm going to tag anybody that hasn't done this. Bye for now, BookTube.